The war between humans and the Zalari Empire had finally ended, but peace did not come with celebration. The battlefield was filled with ashes, broken machines, and the silence of the dead. The smell of metal and burnt air still lingered over the ruined city. Deep below the surface, under a collapsed fortress, there was a hidden bunker. It was said that the Zalari had used it for experiments. No human had dared to go down there since the ceasefire. Until today, Sergeant Mark Evans, a veteran soldier of the Human Defense Corps, was assigned to search the ruins. He had lost his whole unit during the last battle. Now he worked alone. His armor was scratched, his eyes were tired, but his will was strong. He carried a pulse rifle and a flashlight as he stepped down the cracked metal stairs. The deeper he went, the colder it became. Each step echoed through the tunnels like footsteps in a tomb. Water dripped from the ceiling, falling into small puddles that reflected the light of his torch. The bunker walls were covered with strange alien symbols glowing faintly with blue light. They looked alive, as if they were breathing with the rhythm of his steps. Mark reached a heavy door sealed with alien locks. He scanned it with his wrist device. The screen flashed, unknown energy detected. He frowned. The war was over. There shouldn't be any active Zalari tech left. With a deep breath, he forced the door open. A sharp hiss of air escaped, followed by a soft hum like something waking from a long sleep. Inside, the room was dimly lit by flickering red lights. Chains hung from the ceiling. Broken lab equipment lay scattered on the floor. And in the corner, half hidden by shadow, something moved. Mark froze. He raised his weapon and shone the light toward the corner. A figure sat against the wall, a woman but not human. Her skin was silver, smooth like liquid metal. Her long dark hair fell over her shoulders, stained with dried blood. Two glowing red eyes opened slowly, reflecting the beam of his flashlight. Mark's breath caught in his throat. He had seen Zalari warriors before, but never one like her. Even in chains, she looked powerful, elegant yet dangerous. Her lips curved into a faint smile. Her voice was soft but sharp, like a blade through air. You smell of iron and fear. Mark steadied his weapon. Don't move, he said. Identify yourself, she tilted her head. You command me? A human? Then she laughed. A low, almost musical sound that echoed through the bunker. When she lifted her face to the light, he saw the mark of royalty on her neck, a glowing crest in the shape of a burning sun. He realized what she was. A Zalari princess, one of the ruling bloodline. All reports said they were wiped out. Mark tightened his grip. You're supposed to be dead. Her smile widened. So are you, soldier. Then she slowly licked her lips, her red eyes never leaving his face. I'll teach you pleasure, if you survive me. The words struck him like a spark in the dark. He didn't understand her tone. It was both threat and promise. The air around them changed. The lights flickered violently. Energy readings on his wrist device spiked. Mark took a step back, but the heavy door behind him slammed shut. He spun around and tried to reopen it, but the panel was dead. His communication line was also silent. No signal, no escape. He turned back toward her. She was standing now, the chains around her wrists glowing faintly. Each link vibrated with alien energy. Her wounds were closing, healing themselves as he watched. What did you do? He demanded. She looked at him with a mix of pain and desire. I woke up. He aimed his weapon at her heart. Stay where you are. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Shoot and the curse will kill you too. Mark hesitated. He didn't know if she was lying, but something in her eyes made him pause. They were not just red, they were alive, burning like fire trapped behind glass. What curse? He asked. She smiled again. The one that binds my breath to yours. He didn't understand. He scanned her with his visor. Strange energy waves filled the room. It felt like the air itself was breathing with them. Then he felt it. A sudden warmth inside his chest, as if something invisible had touched his heart. His vision blurred for a second. Her voice echoed in his mind, clear and soft. You feel it, don't you? She whispered. Our hearts now beat together. Mark gasped and pulled away, but the feeling only grew stronger. Every breath he took was mixed with hers. Every heartbeat matched her rhythm. She looked at him calmly. If I die, you die. If you fight me, you burn. If you trust me, you may live. He stood there frozen, unsure whether to believe her. The war had made him hate the Zalari. But now, in the middle of this cursed bunker, he was bound to one. The princess smiled faintly, watching him struggle. The choice is yours, human. she said softly. Survive me, or be consumed by me. The lights dimmed again. The sensors on the wall began to spark. Something deeper inside the bunker started to wake. A low hum like the heartbeat of a machine. Mark tightened his jaw, raised his weapon once more, and stepped closer to her. If she was the enemy, he would face her. But deep inside, a strange feeling had already taken root. Fear, curiosity, and something he didn't want to name. The air grew heavy. The red lights flickered over their faces, and in that frozen silence, two hearts beat as one in the darkness below the ruined world. The red lights blinked like dying stars across the bunker walls. Mark Evans stood in the center of the room, his pulse rifle aimed at the silver-skinned alien princess whose eyes burned like molten glass. The air between them was alive, breathing, whispering, dangerous. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then the sound of metal groaning filled the bunker. The chains around her wrists rattled softly. Mark's voice was firm. "Tell me what this curse is." The princess tilted her head, her lips curving faintly. "You humans never listen, always pointing weapons before thinking." She took a small step forward. The chains glowed brighter, pulling her back with a sharp metallic snap. She didn't flinch. Instead, her eyes narrowed. "These chains feed on emotion, anger, fear, desire. That's how your people made them." "My people?" Mark frowned. "You mean humans created that thing binding you?" She nodded slowly. "Your scientists captured me. They wanted to study the Zolari bond, our ability to share sensations, to connect hearts and bodies. They twisted it, turned it into a weapon." Her voice trembled slightly, then hardened again. "They called it the hunger link." Mark lowered his weapon a little. "I don't know anything about that." "I believe you," she said quietly. "You're too small to carry such sins." She looked around the dark chamber. This place was their lab. They wanted to use my power to control entire armies. They failed. Now the curse feeds on anyone who enters. He checked his scanner again. Radiation, psychic resonance, and bioenergy spikes filled the display. "Then I need to shut it down," he said. She gave a dry laugh. "Shut it down? You can't even leave." He glanced back at the sealed door. She was right. Every control panel was dead. The air vents stopped moving. The temperature began to rise. Thin smoke curled from the floor grates. "What's happening?" he asked. Her voice turned calm, almost cold. "The bunker recognizes a living host again. It's waking up." Mark felt sweat on his forehead. "Then help me stop it," she smiled softly. "You'll have to release me first." He hesitated. She could be lying, he thought. She could kill me the second I free her. But the heat kept rising. His armor's internal sensors began to beep, oxygen levels dropping fast. He looked at her again. Despite her strength, she was still wounded. Blood, dark blue, dripped slowly down her arm. The chains around her wrists glowed hotter with each breath. Mark finally stepped closer. "If you try anything, I'll end you." She looked straight into his eyes. "If I wanted you dead, you'd already be ash." He knelt beside the chains. They were made of black metal, inscribed with moving runes. He pulled a tool from his belt and began to pry at the lock. Each time his fingers touched the metal, pain shot through his arm like lightning. "Stop," she said. "You can't use force. You must match your heartbeat with mine. That's how the lock opens." "What?" He stared at her. "Focus. Feel the rhythm you sensed before. Sync with it. It's the only way." Mark closed his eyes reluctantly. At first he heard only his own breathing. Then he felt it again. That strange pulse in his chest, like another heart beating inside him. He matched its rhythm, slow and heavy. The runes on the chains began to dim. The air shimmered. With a final hiss, the locks released. The princess fell forward, catching herself with one hand. She gasped, then looked up at him. "You did it." Before he could respond, the ground shook violently. A deep sound rumbled through the bunker, a warning alarm from the old Zolari systems. The floor split open near the wall, and fiery vents erupted, sending bursts of red smoke. "Move," she shouted, pulling him to the side. The heat nearly burned through his armor. "What is this?" he yelled. "The hunger core," she said. "It feeds on energy and emotion, heat, life. It's waking." He tried to reach his communicator again, but the signal was still gone. They were trapped. Nira, that was her name. He remembered hearing it whispered when he scanned her collar data earlier, pressed her palm against the floor. Strange glowing lines spread from her hand like veins of fire. What are you doing? Slowing it down, she said. But it needs balance. You're linked to me now. If your emotions spike, it'll react. So I have to stay calm while standing on a volcano? She looked at him with a faint smirk. Yes, human. Consider it training. The flames dimmed slightly as he steadied his breathing. He focused on her voice, her calmness. For a moment, everything around them went quiet, only the sound of their hearts echoing in the room. Then from the corner of the bunker came a low growl. Something moved in the shadows. Mark aimed his rifle instantly. 3 shapes crawled out of the darkness, twisted half-mechanical creatures with glowing eyes, human bones fused with alien metal. Their mouths opened with static screams. "You're soldiers," she whispered, "or what's left of them." Mark froze for a second. One of the creatures still wore a broken human helmet. He felt his stomach twist. "They're feeding on the core," she said. "If we don't stop them, it'll break loose completely." He nodded grimly. "Then we stop them." She gave him a sharp smile. "Together, then." She raised her hand, energy burst from her palm, pure silver light. Mark fired his rifle beside her, each shot echoing through the bunker. The creatures lunged forward. The air burned with heat and power. For the first time, human and alien fought side by side. When the last creature fell, silence filled the room again. Smoke curled through the air. Mark lowered his weapon slowly. Nera looked at him, her breathing heavy, her skin glowing faintly. Her lips curved into a tired smile. "Not bad. For your first lesson." He stared at her, unsure if she was teasing or serious. But before he could speak, the floor lights turned from red to white. The system had stabilized for now. Nera touched his chest lightly with her fingers. "You survived this round," she whispered. "But the curse is only beginning to wake." Mark met her gaze. "Then I guess we fight it together." Her eyes softened for a brief second. "Careful, human. Once you start down this path, there's no turning back." The hum of the bunker settled into a heartbeat once more. 2 lives, 1 human, 1 alien, now bound inside a cage of fire. The air inside the bunker was heavy with heat and smoke. The fire vents had calmed, but the walls still pulsed with red light like veins carrying blood. Mark Evans leaned against the wall, catching his breath. His hands shook slightly. He had fought alien horrors before, but never side by side with one. Princess Nera stood across from him, her silver skin dimly glowing in the flicker of the emergency lights. Her eyes followed him, calm yet unreadable. "You held your ground," she said softly. "The core accepted your will." He gave a tired smirk. "Guess I'm tougher than I look." She stepped closer, her movements fluid and silent. "Toughness means little down here. The core doesn't test strength. It tests the heart." Mark frowned. "Then what happens now?" "The core will measure your truth," she said, her gaze deepening. "It needs to know who you are before it decides if you live or die." Before he could reply, the floor beneath them shimmered. A circle of blue light appeared, spreading outward until it filled the whole room. Mark felt a pull, like gravity twisting in reverse. He tried to move, but his body froze in place. "What's happening?" he gasped. Nera closed her eyes. "The core is reading us." The light swallowed them both. In an instant, the bunker vanished. Mark opened his eyes and found himself standing in the middle of a ruined city. But not the same one. This place was whole, alive, full of color. The sun burned over tall towers. People walked past him laughing. It looked like Earth. Before the war, he blinked in confusion. "Is this real?" Nera appeared beside him, but her form was different. Her skin shimmered like light through water, almost transparent. "This is the core's illusion," she said quietly. "It shows what you hide. It feeds on your truth." He turned and froze. Across the street, a group of human soldiers stood laughing. He knew them. His old squad, the ones who died under his command. "Jacob, Marie," he whispered. The images smiled at him, then suddenly their faces melted into ash. The city around them burned. Explosions echoed. Screams filled the air. Mark fell to his knees, clutching his head. "No, I tried to save them." The flames grew higher. Through the smoke, his commander's voice shouted, "You ran, Evans. You left them to die." Mark slammed his fist against the ground. "That's a lie." Nera stood behind him, watching silently. The core was showing his guilt, his greatest wound. She could feel it through the link between them. She knelt beside him. "Your pain feeds it. You must face it, not fight it." Mark looked up, his eyes filled with rage and shame. "I saw them burn. I couldn't stop it." Nera reached out, touching his chest gently. You still carry their fire inside you, she whispered. But it doesn't have to destroy you. The flames around them slowed, turning from red to gold. The city's ruins began to fade. Mark felt the air shift. The pain in his chest lessened. Then everything went dark again. They stood now in another place, a vast, silent hall filled with alien symbols. This time it was Naira who trembled. Mark turned to her. "What is this?" She didn't answer. Her face had gone pale. From the far end of the hall, a tall Zalari man appeared wearing royal armor. His eyes glowed bright crimson. "Father?" she whispered. The man's voice was cold and deep. "You betrayed your kind, Naira. I tried to save them," she cried. "I begged them to stop the experiments. You let humans touch your heart," the illusion spat. "You shamed our bloodline." The hall shook with his anger. Naira stumbled back, her chains forming again around her wrists. Mark ran to her, grabbing the chains, trying to pull them apart. "They're not real," he shouted. "It's just a test," she gasped, tears glimmering in her red eyes. "It feels real." The core's power flared, reacting to her despair. The floor cracked, releasing bursts of fire. Mark pulled harder, shouting, "You're not alone anymore." His hands burned, but he didn't stop. Finally, the chains shattered in a burst of white light. The vision broke apart like glass. They fell back onto the cold metal floor of the real bunker. The red lights returned. The hum of the core was steady again. Mark lay on his back, breathing hard. "What was that?" Naira sat beside him, her face pale and tired. "The core judged us," she said weakly. "It saw your guilt and my shame, but it didn't destroy us, and so we passed." She nodded slowly. "For now." Mark looked at her, really looked at her. Her arrogance was gone. There was only exhaustion and something almost human in her eyes. He noticed a faint scar across her collarbone, fresh, glowing faintly. "What's that?" he asked. She touched it lightly. "The core's mark. It binds us fully now. You carry my energy and I carry yours. If either of us dies, the other follows." Mark sat up slowly, rubbing his temple. "So I'm stuck with you." Naira gave a tired smile. "And I with you, human." They both looked toward the sealed door. It was still locked, but now faint blue lines glowed across its surface. The core had changed the bunker and them. Naira stood, brushing dust from her arms. "The next test won't be so kind," she said quietly. "It won't test your memories. It will test your control." Mark rose beside her, gripping his weapon. "Then I better learn fast." She gave him a long, unreadable look. Her voice softened. "You're already learning. The core wouldn't have spared us otherwise." The hum of the bunker deepened again, almost like a heartbeat. Outside the sealed door, something heavy scraped across the metal, as if something large had just awakened on the other side. Mark raised his weapon. "What now?" Naira's eyes glowed faintly red. "Now," she whispered, "we see what survived the fire." The bunker was silent except for the faint hum of the core buried deep below. Mark Evans and Princess Naira stood side by side, breathing the same stale air. The fight and the illusions had left both of them drained, but the strange energy flowing between their bodies kept them alive and connected. Every time she moved, he felt it, a pulse inside his chest that was not his own. Her presence burned like static under his skin, a warmth that refused to fade. He hated to admit it, but the bond felt alive, almost human. Naira leaned against the wall, her eyes glowing faintly red in the dark. "You're too quiet, soldier," she said softly. "Are you afraid of me?" Mark checked his weapon, avoiding her gaze. "You nearly killed me twice already. Maybe I'm just being careful," she smirked. "Careful is good. But fear?" She stepped closer, voice low. "Fear feeds the core." He looked up sharply. "You mean it's still watching us?" "Always," she said, touching the wall with her palm. The metal rippled under her hand like water. "It's alive. It listens to every heartbeat in this bunker." Mark frowned. "So what now? We wait for it to test us again?" Naira shook her head. "If we wait, it'll consume us both. The hunger grows faster the longer we resist it. The hunger." She looked at him with those strange, glowing eyes. "The bond between us. The core made it stronger. It feeds on connection, emotion, pain, desire. If we don't learn to control it, it will break us." Mark's heartbeat quickened. "And how exactly do we control it?" Naira's lips curved slightly. "Through balance." She stepped closer, so close that he could feel her breath against his neck. "Your mind and mine are linked. You feel what I feel. The core reads us through it. To control it, We must learn to feel together, without losing ourselves. Mark backed away a little, confused and tense. You're saying I have to, what? Meditate with you? Naira smiled faintly. If that's what helps you sleep at night, yes. She knelt on the floor and closed her eyes. The glowing runes beneath her shimmered to life. Sit, she said. Match your breathing to mine. Let the link settle. Mark sighed but sat down across from her. He had no reason to trust her, and yet some part of him already did. They sat in silence. Her breathing was slow and deep. He tried to match it. Inhale, exhale. At first it felt strange, then he felt her heartbeat echo in his chest. The air grew warmer. The light from the walls turned soft and silver. For a brief moment, the pain and fear in his mind faded. He saw flashes of her memories. Zalari skies filled with twin moons, her people dancing in silver armor, laughter echoing in the night. He gasped, breaking focus. I saw something. Your world. Naira opened her eyes slowly. You peeked too deep. I didn't mean to. You humans never mean to, she said quietly, though her voice carried no anger. Now you know why I fight, why I survived. My people are gone because of what your scientists did. Mark lowered his eyes. I wasn't part of that. I know, she said, standing. But the core doesn't care who's guilty. It only knows the link between us. It will use every feeling, guilt, anger, desire, to grow stronger. He stood as well. So how do we stop it? She turned toward him, her expression unreadable. You can't stop it. You can only master it. The lights flickered again as if reacting to her words. The walls pulsed with a deep red glow, like the bunker itself was breathing faster. Mark took a step back. What's happening? Naira frowned. The core senses conflict between us. It's feeding. The air thickened with heat. Mark felt a sharp pain in his chest, followed by an unfamiliar warmth that spread through his body. It was her emotions only pouring into him through the bond. Fear, sadness, desire. He gritted his teeth.
Stop it!
I can't, she gasped. You're feeling what I'm feeling. Don't fight it, balance it. The light around them flared white. For a few terrifying seconds they couldn't tell where one heartbeat ended and the other began. Their minds blended, his memories, her memories flashing like fire. He saw her as a child, chained in a cold lab. She saw him as a soldier, holding his dying friend. Then suddenly everything went quiet. They stood close, almost touching. The core's light dimmed back to silver. Naira looked at him, breathing hard. You're learning faster than I expected. Mark's voice was low. You call that learning? That almost killed me. Her expression softened, almost amused. And yet you lived. That's what makes you different from the others. He frowned. Others? Her gaze darkened. You weren't the first human they linked to me, but you're the first one still breathing. The words hit him like ice. They experimented with others? She nodded slowly. 5 before you. All soldiers. All failed. Mark stared at her in silence. Then why am I different? Naira stepped closer again, her voice a whisper. Because when the core touched you, it didn't find fear. It found compassion. The room fell silent again. He didn't know how to respond. Then a loud metallic screech echoed from the far tunnel, the sound of gears grinding and heavy footsteps approaching. Naira turned sharply. The core has sensed new life. Mark raised his weapon. What kind of life? She looked into the darkness, her eyes glowing bright red. The kind that hunts emotion. The core's guardians. Mark clenched his weapon tighter. Then it's hunting us. Naira smiled faintly. No, human. It's hunting you. The core wants to see how much of your heart it can take before you break. The tunnel lights turned blood red. Something large began to crawl out of the shadows, metal limbs dripping with black energy, its face shifting like smoke. Mark stepped forward, his weapon aimed. Then let's show it what survival looks like. Naira's lips curved into a fierce smile. Now you sound like a Zalari. The creature roared, shaking the walls. Human and alien stood together, their heartbeats now one as the hunger within prepared to test them once again. The red tunnel lights flashed like sirens in the dark. The walls trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. Mark Evans aimed his rifle into the darkness while Princess Naira stood beside him, her silver skin glowing faintly with energy. The sound came again, a low growl mixed with metal scraping. Something was moving toward them. Naira's eyes glowed bright crimson. The core's guardians are awake. Mark narrowed his eyes. Guardians? They were once protectors, she said grimly. Now they are hungry echoes. The core twists them to feed on emotion, fear, anger, Then let's give them something to choke on. Before she could respond, the first guardian appeared, a creature built of broken armor and melted flesh. Its face flickered like a shattered mask, shifting between human and alien shapes. The smell of burnt oil filled the air. Behind it, 2 more crawled through the tunnel walls like spiders made of iron. Mark fired a burst of plasma shots. They hit the first guardian, but it barely slowed. The creature screamed, the sound piercing his helmet's filters. Its glowing chest cracked open, revealing a pulsing red core. Naira lifted her hand and shouted, "Move!" A wave of silver energy burst from her palm, slamming into the creature and throwing it against the wall. It screeched, the metal of its limbs twisting under the force. Mark turned to her, eyes wide. "You could have done that earlier." Her voice was strained. "Not without you. Our bond shares power and your will feeds my strength. So I'm your battery now?" She smiled faintly. "A powerful one." The other 2 guardians lunged at them. One crashed into Mark, sending him tumbling backward. He hit the ground hard, his rifle sliding away. The creature's claws sliced through his armor. He grabbed a broken pipe and jammed it into its throat. Sparks erupted. Naira extended her hands again, energy swirling around her like fire and light. "Focus," she shouted. "Don't fight with fear, fight with purpose." Mark gritted his teeth, trying to steady his breath. The core bond pulsed between them. He could feel her heartbeat in his chest, strong and rhythmic. It calmed him, steadied him. When he swung again, his arm glowed faint blue. The pipe cut through the creature's neck like a blade of light. The guardian collapsed, dissolving into ash. He stared at his hand in disbelief. What the hell was that? Nira looked at him with something like pride. "Zalari energy. You're adapting." He didn't have time to respond. The last guardian charged at them faster and stronger. Naira tried to block it, but her strength faltered. The core inside the bunker pulsed violently, reacting to their exhaustion. The ground cracked beneath them. The creature roared, grabbing Nira by the throat and slamming her against the wall. She gasped, energy flickering around her body. Mark ran forward and fired again. Nothing happened. The rifle was empty. Without thinking, he dropped it and tackled the monster. It lifted him easily and threw him aside. Pain shot through his ribs. Naira's eyes dimmed. The guardian opened its mouth, releasing a pulse of red energy straight at her. Mark saw it and jumped in front of her without hesitation. The blast hit him full force. His body glowed blue and red at once. He fell to his knees, screaming as his veins lit like fire. But the core bond reacted. It absorbed the shock, forcing Naira's energy into him. She screamed too, feeling the pain through the link. Then suddenly, the light inside the bunker changed. The core itself responded. The air turned bright white. Energy surged from the walls, wrapping around them both. The guardian froze mid-attack, caught in the storm of light. Its body disintegrated piece by piece. When the light faded, silence filled the room again. The guardian was gone. Smoke rose from the floor. Nira knelt beside Mark, grabbing his shoulders. "Breathe, human. Breathe," he gasped, opening his eyes. For a moment, they glowed faint silver, just like hers. The same mark burned faintly on his neck, mirroring the crest of her royal bloodline. Naira stared at him in shock. "The core marked you." Mark coughed weakly. "That sounds bad." "It's not bad," she said softly. "It means it recognizes you. You're now part of the Zalari link. Half of me." He sat up slowly, confused and dazed. "Half of you? What does that even mean?" Naira's expression softened, her voice quiet but warm. "It means the core cannot tell where you end. And I begin." Mark didn't know whether to feel honored or terrified. Before he could speak, a faint tone echoed from his wrist device. The signal light blinked, green. He stared at it. "That's impossible." "Command signal detected." Nira frowned. "Command?" He tapped the screen. Static cleared and a weak voice came through. "Evans, this is Commander Holt. We found your beacon." "Rescue squad en route, Itia." 40 minutes. Mark's heart jumped. "They're coming for me." Naira's face changed, relief mixed with fear. "You don't understand. The core doesn't allow separation. When they reach you, the link will collapse." "What happens if it collapses?" Her answer was quiet. "We both die." He looked at her in disbelief. "There has to be another way." She shook her head. The core was built on balance. It will not let you leave without taking me on, or ending us both. Before he could reply, the bunker's walls began to vibrate again. The red lights turned blue this time, cold and sharp. Neera's face grew pale. No, that's not the core, that's your kind. Mark frowned. My kind? She pointed toward the far tunnel. Through the smoke, drones and armored soldiers were approaching. Human rescue units armed and ready. But their sensors glowed red, not green. Those aren't rescuers, she said, her voice trembling. They're scavengers of the same scientists who made the hunger link. Mark's chest tightened. Then they're here to finish the job. The first drone fired a red beam slicing through the air. Mark rolled aside as the blast hit the wall behind him. Naira's voice echoed in his mind. If they break the core, the bond will consume everything, and even the surface above. He gritted his teeth. Then we fight together. She looked at him and smiled, not with arrogance, but with something human. Together, then. The bunker shook as explosions thundered from the tunnels. Mark and Naira stood side by side, their marks glowing as one. Human will and alien power, now united by the same pulse. Outside, the human ships broadcast one message through static. Engage and recover the subject. Terminate the alien. Inside the bunker, Mark whispered. Not while I'm still breathing. The walls blazed with silver light as the battle for survival began. The war between human greed, alien power, and the fragile bond of two hearts that refused to break. The tunnel shook under the roar of distant explosions. Dust fell from the ceiling like falling snow. Mark Evans crouched beside Naira as a blast echoed through the bunker's metal walls. The sound of human boots drew closer. Neera's voice was low but sharp. They're close. Too close. Mark checked his rifle. Half charged, barrel cracked. If they're really from command, they'll want to help. Her eyes glowed with warning. Command doesn't send soldiers with red drones. He looked at her, remembering the voice over his comm. Flat, cold, too mechanical. His stomach turned. You think they're the same ones who did this to you? They are, she said, her tone like iron. I felt their signal through the core. It carries the same code. The scientists who turned my people into fuel. Mark's chest tightened. Then they're not rescuing anyone. They're hunting us. A beam of red light swept through the corridor. He pushed her against the wall, pulling her close as the light passed over. She could feel his heart pounding through the armor. Why do you still protect me? She whispered. They're your kind. He glanced down at her, tired, covered in ash, yet still radiant in the dark. Because you're not the monster they said you were. Her eyes softened for the first time. You'll die for me? He smiled faintly. I've done dumber things. Before she could answer, the door at the end of the tunnel exploded. Flames and smoke poured through as human soldiers entered, weapons glowing blue. Their armor was marked with the symbol of the old research division, Project Ethan. They moved in formation, rifles aimed. A voice boomed through a speaker. Sergeant Evans, stand down! Step away from the alien! Mark froze. They know my name. Neera's voice echoed softly in his mind through the bond. The core showed them. They see through you now. He raised his rifle anyway. You're not command. Identify yourselves. The lead soldier stepped forward. His armor was different, black with a glowing spine of red light. We are continuation unit of Project Ethan. Your biosignature matches the next test subject. The Corps has chosen you, and we intend to finish its work. Naira hissed, energy flickering along her arms. You won't touch him. The soldier ignored her. You're carrying unstable Zalari energy, Sergeant. It's a miracle you're still alive. Step aside so we can remove the specimen. Specimen, Mark shouted. She's a person. The soldier's visor flared red. She's an experiment, a weapon. The Corps' last living vessel. Mark aimed his rifle straight at him. Then you'll have to go through me. The human squad spread out, aiming at both of them. Naira turned to him, whispering urgently, If they destroy me, you die too. The Corps will rip through you to reach me. Then we fight, he said. Her eyes glowed brighter, tears glimmering in the light. No, if you fight them, you'll never go back. You'll be hunted forever. He smiled faintly. Maybe I'm tired of following orders anyway. The soldiers fired first. Blue bolts filled the tunnel. Mark and Naira dove behind a fallen beam as the shots tore through the walls. Sparks showered the floor. Naira closed her eyes, whispering ancient Zalari words. Silver light surrounded them both, forming a shimmering shield. The bullets hit it like rain against glass. Mark peeked over the edge and fired back. striking one soldier in the chest. Another blast hit the shield. Cracks spread across it like spiderwebs. Naira groaned, holding it together with sheer will. "Mark, the shield can't hold." "Then drop it," he shouted. She shook her head. "If I drop it, the core will react. It will flood the room." "Flood it with what?" "Energy, hunger, everything it has left." He looked at her, sweat dripping down her face, her body trembling from the strain. She was trying to protect him again, and he realized. He couldn't let her. He grabbed her wrist, breaking her focus. The shield shattered in an instant. A wave of raw energy burst through the bunker. Silver and red light spiraled out like a storm. The soldiers screamed as their visors cracked, systems shorting out. The core's hum deepened to a thunderous roar. Panels ripped off the walls, levitating in the air. Naira's voice filled the chaos. "It's overloading. It's trying to merge us completely." Mark pulled her close. "Then what do we do?" She looked at him, her eyes trembling. "One of us must sever the link. If not, the core will spread. It will consume everything." He frowned. "You mean one of us has to die?" She nodded silently. "You were not meant to bear my curse. The core only chose you to awaken me. Let me end it." He grabbed her shoulders. "No, Mark, I said no," he shouted. "I didn't fight this hard to lose you now." The light around them grew brighter, almost blinding. They could barely see the soldiers anymore, only shapes swallowed by fire. The core's voice echoed through both their minds, ancient and cold. Balance must be restored. One heart must break. Naira pressed her forehead against his chest. "Let me go." He wrapped his arms around her tighter. "You once said the core feeds on emotion, right?" "Yes." "Then let's give it something it's never felt before." He kissed her. For a second the world went still. Then the core screamed, a sound like metal tearing through the stars. The light turned white. Naira gasped as the bond between them exploded in a surge of energy. Every heartbeat, every memory, every feeling poured out of them into the core. But instead of consuming them, it began to change, shifting from red to gold. The bunker stopped shaking. The walls calmed. The soldiers who survived fell to their knees, their weapons useless. Mark and Naira collapsed together in the center of the glowing floor. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You changed the core." He smiled weakly. "Guess love breaks more than rules." Her silver eyes filled with tears. "You foolish, beautiful human." The light dimmed at last, leaving them in soft silver glow. The core's voice was gone. For the first time, the bunker was quiet. Naira looked at him, tired, trembling, but alive. "What have you done?" He took her hand gently. "I made a choice." The bunker was silent. Smoke floated like ghosts through the air, drifting between beams of soft golden light. Everything that once roared now only whispered. The hum of machines, the crackle of fading fire, and two steady heartbeats lying side by side in the dust. Mark Evans opened his eyes slowly. The ceiling above him glowed faintly. The core's color had changed from red to silver gold. He felt warmth on his chest, not pain. When he looked down, Naira was there, her head resting on him, her skin no longer glowing with anger but with quiet light. She stirred weakly. "You're alive," she whispered, as if afraid it wasn't true. He smiled faintly. "Disappointed?" Her lips curved into the smallest smile. Relieved, they sat up together. Around them, the bunker was different. Where there was once fire, now there was calm light. The walls pulsed slowly like a giant heart breathing softly. The core had changed, not destroyed, but reborn. Mark stood still shaky. "What happened?" Naira looked around with awe. "You fed it something it never understood. It tried to consume love, but instead it became love." He chuckled quietly. "Guess that's one emotion your science couldn't weaponize." She gave him a look both tender and sad. "You humans, you turn weakness into strength." They walked through the corridors together, their steps echoing softly. The human soldiers they'd fought were gone. Some turned to light, others vanished. Only the sound of quiet rain came from above, dripping through cracks in the ceiling. "Is it over?" Mark asked. "For now," she said. "But the world outside won't understand this peace. To them, I'm still an enemy. To them, you're still a traitor." Mark glanced at her. "Then maybe it's time we stop being theirs." She stopped walking, her red eyes searching his face. "You would leave your world?" He smiled faintly. "Maybe it already left me." For a moment, neither spoke. Then the bunker's central chamber opened again. A shaft of sunlight pierced through the broken ceiling. Real sunlight, the first rays to reach this place in decades. The golden light touched Naira's silver skin, making her shimmer like liquid starlight. She looked up, her lips parting softly. It's warm. Mark stepped beside her, shielding his eyes. That's what freedom feels like. She turned to him slowly. I don't deserve it, he met her gaze. Neither do I. But we've both earned it. The Core's voice whispered faintly through the air. No longer cold, no longer commanding. It was gentle, almost human. Balance restored. Bond sustained. Heart unbroken. Mark looked at her in surprise. Did it just... Naira nodded, a soft laugh escaping her lips. It learned to feel. They stood in silence, bathed in light as the Core pulsed one last time. Its power faded into their marks, sealing them, not as curse but as connection. The gold marks on their necks glowed once, then dimmed. Mark could still feel her heartbeat in his chest, faint but steady. Outside, distant engines roared. The true rescue team at last, searching the ruins. Mark turned toward the exit. They'll be here soon. Naira's face darkened slightly. If they see me, they'll kill me. Or worse, he reached for her hand. Then we don't wait for them. She hesitated. Where will we go? He smiled. Up, anywhere that isn't down here. She took his hand. Her fingers were warm. Truly warm this time, not glowing with power, but alive with blood and feeling. Together they climbed toward the broken opening in the ceiling. Each step up the debris felt like a step away from the past. The wind hit them first, a cold, clean, real. When they reached the surface, the world above greeted them with silence and light rain. The ruined city stretched for miles, towers half fallen, rivers glowing faint blue from alien residue. But there was life too, small plants growing through cracks, birds circling in the distance. The war was over and the world was healing. Mark turned to her. This is what they fought for. Maybe we can finish what they started. Naira looked at him, eyes reflecting both sorrow and wonder. You sound like a king, she teased softly. He shrugged. I'll settle for survivor. She smiled, truly smiled, and stepped closer. Her hand touched his cheek. Then let this world remember the day a human taught a monster to feel again. He laughed quietly. And the day a princess taught a soldier to love again. The wind carried their words into the open sky. Above them, clouds parted just enough to reveal the twin suns of Earth's new dawn. One human, one alien. Naira leaned into him, her voice a soft whisper. Do you hear it? Hear what? The silence, she said. For the first time. It's beautiful. They stood together, framed in the light of the broken world. Two hearts, once enemies. Now one pulse, one breath, one hope. Somewhere deep below, the Core whispered one final line. From hunger came harmony. From pain came love. And so beneath the ashes of war, the legend of the human and the alien princess began. A story of survival, connection, and the one truth both species had forgotten, that even across worlds, the heart speaks the same language.